Hello, jeweler, and welcome to this module on your success mechanism. So what is your success mechanism? Your success mechanism is a machine that we use in order to get us to the goals and dreams that we're looking for. However, to understand how it works, we first need to understand something about feedback loops. So what is a feedback loop? If you remember when we talked about cause and effect, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Well, a feedback loop is just that, except that the effect ends up recreating the cause. And this happens over and over and over again in a cycle, which we call a feedback loop. Now, in society, these are really easy to spot. For example, if one person starts running down the street and screaming, that causes panic to occur in others. Because panic occurs in others, they begin running down the street as well. Because this happens, more people start panicking. And all of a sudden, very quickly, you have thousands of people running, but having no idea what they're running from in the first place. The effect becomes the cause. Or take a city, for example. People move to the city because there is opportunity there. Because there's more people in the city, there's now more opportunity. Because there's more opportunity, now more people move to the city. And the city keeps on growing and growing simply because it keeps on growing and growing. The effect becomes the cause. Or how about in business? You sell a piece of jewelry. That piece of jewelry sold created a satisfied customer. That customer now goes and spreads the word about you, and you now sell more pieces of jewelry. Then you have more satisfied customers. Then you have more word of mouth spreading. And this cycle continues and continues on with greater and greater momentum and compounding interest. But feedback loops don't just exist in society or externally, they actually happen internally as well. So when I was in high school, I was told by someone that I looked up to that while I'm great with people, I'm not really the administrative type. Because of that, whenever I looked for jobs, I always stayed away from administrative type jobs. Because I stayed away from those jobs, I always felt nervous whenever any administrative type role came up because I knew I wouldn't do well at it. So I never tried. And because of that, I never got those jobs. The little seed planted in my head, "You're not an administrative type," went on to prohibit me from taking those roles later on, even when they were presented to me. Or take the opposite. I was told, "You're great with people." And because of that, I always assumed that it was easy for me to make friends and meet new people. Because I assumed that, I loved social situations, could easily move around and freely about in them, and I never lacked confidence around others. Because of this, I made a lot of friends, and this in turn made me even more confident in my ability to be great with people. The seed encouraged me in a certain direction, and because I assumed that I was good at it, I ended up becoming good at it, since, hey, I'm a natural. And even if I have a bad day or feel introverted for a while, that's just a fluke, and I'll surely make a lot of friends wherever I go. Can you begin to see how powerful something like this truly is in shaping how we see ourselves? And the potential that we have in becoming who we want to be? What's fascinating about feedback loops is just how much they occur. You see, when it comes to forming beliefs about something, we normally think in very black and white terms. We think in terms of right and wrong, of black and white. I just want to demonstrate this. I want to say a few things, and I want you to let yourself just have thoughts as they come into your head. Don't think any way about it, just first thing that comes to your mind. What comes to mind when I say Trump? What comes to mind when I say Biden? What comes to mind when I say nature? What comes to mind when I say city? What comes to mind when I say vegan? What comes to mind when I say McDonald's? What comes to mind when I say rich? What comes to mind when I say poor? What comes to mind when I say meditation? What comes to mind when I say Wall Street? What comes to mind when I say Jesus? What comes to mind when I say Nietzsche? What comes to mind when I say Taylor Swift? What comes to mind when I say Tupac? You see, in our minds, we have this duality that occurs. Immediately before we have any opportunity to make a thought, we begin judging everything that we see as either good or bad, attractive or unattractive, evil, sweet, healthy, unhealthy. And we get all these incredibly strong beliefs that seem to be so ingrained in who we are that it's like their second nature. They are so powerful and moving that they seem to flow up from a deep part of us involuntarily. The way we view money, the way we view certain individuals, the way we view food, or really anything. We have this black and white dichotomy, and we immediately find ourselves involuntarily judging people who identify with a certain class or have this thing or like that thing. Now, remember what I said about feedback loops and how it is that we have these loops in our heads and they can either spiral up to build us into well-adjusted, strong individuals, or they can break us down and deter us from doing things that might even be really, really good for us. Well, those proclivities to do something or not do something arise out of us involuntarily as well. We don't have to think about them. I don't have to think about whether or not I'll be personable in a crowd of people. I just believe that I will be, as though it's a fact. For some people, they believe that no matter how hard they work, they'll just never be able to be successful. And it's a fact to them. No one can dispute it. They don't even have to think about it anymore. Well, the same thing has happened with society all around us. In the same way that cities grow on their own and panic arises on its own without anyone knowing why they're panicking in the first place, we have feedback loops present in society's belief system that are so ingrained in everyone and that we all take them as fact. And some of them are good. For example, engagement rings are a feedback loop that have grown to the point where it's almost unthinkable that a person would get engaged without an engagement ring. But some are also detrimental to the progress of particular people. For example, if you grow up believing that rich people are bad, and then you meet a rich person and the guy is a scumbag, well, it just proves your point. Now, rich people are bad, and you have people saying, eat the rich. And they talk about those with money as though they're this other species altogether that should be eradicated from the planet. It's not even a question anymore for these people. Being rich is bad, and you shouldn't strive for it because it is inherently linked with being a scumbag. However, some of us grew up being exposed to rich people who were amazing people. And then the more we get into those circles, we found that more amazing people were rich. And we also were inspired by them, and they make us want to try harder and come up with new ways of improving the world. Or the same could be said about vegans. To a lot of people, vegans are this super annoying class of people who hug trees and will look down on you for enjoying a steak. All they want is to make you feel bad, and they're just waiting for the opportunity to ruin your meal. For others, vegan means healthy, great tasting food. It means feeling great. It means finding new places that offer different foods than what most people are used to. It means making friends anywhere you go. It means feeling one with the earth, and so on and so forth. Or how about cities and nature? As a society, we've come to believe that cities are gross and dirty and bad, and that they're destroying the earth, and that the real world is nature, and what's good is being out in the woods and getting your hands dirty and being in the mountains and going hiking and being free from all the capitalism and materialism in the city. But then others look at nature and think, well, nature is dangerous. It needs to be tamed. It's safe and secure in the city. Nature is bad because it means hard work for everything you do. Cities are good because they mean opportunity, they mean growth, they mean evolution, and it's where you meet people, and it's where most of the change in the world comes from. But we believe these stories, and they confirm what we already believe, and we find more of these stories, and all of a sudden it becomes this unending feedback loop that creates strong, strong beliefs. They spring up from within us immediately and without even thinking about it. Now, these stories have been so deeply ingrained in who we are that for most of us, it's like they're a part of who we are. And we make huge decisions about our lives based on these stories and what we believe to be either good or not. I mean, just think about Biden versus Trump. Some people think Biden is the best president there ever could be. They love the guy and they want their kids to grow up to be like him. And how about Trump? Some people believe that Trump was the best president the country has ever seen, and they want their kids to grow up and be like him. And because of what people believe about these two guys, they end up making some really large decisions about how to treat others, where to live, who to be friends with. And it's just amazing to watch because immediately you think, well, that person must be an idiot for thinking what they think. And the judgment starts. And it's like we don't even have control over it. We believe these things so deeply that they're like facts of life to us. There's no disputing whatsoever. But that begs the question, why doesn't everyone think the same way that we do? Why hasn't everyone been fed the same feedback loop that I have in my head? And when it comes to success, why is it that some people have such an easy time being successful and pushing forward and taking risks, while I just can't ever seem to make it work in my own life? It all has to do with feedback loops and how we form beliefs based off of experiences that we've had. Remember that feedback loops come from a cause and effect cycle in which the effect becomes the cause. Because this is true, it really only takes one small cause to start a feedback loop which progresses more and more in one direction. Now think of your mind like a scale, and on either side of the scale we have our opinions about right and wrong, light and dark, good and evil, true and false, success and failure. Now if we were to put our ability to have a successful jewelry business on there, we already have certain opinions based on past experiences which will tip the scales in one way or another. If you've had a sale in the past, then imagine putting a rock on one side of the scale for successful. However, if one person told you that they didn't like your jewelry, then you might consider putting a rock on the other side for failure. Now, without even thinking about it, you're already beginning to believe things about yourself and your chances of success that are leading you down a feedback loop. So every time we have an experience, whether it be good or bad, we get more and more convinced that a particular thing is right or wrong, true or false, successful or unsuccessful. And eventually, with enough experiences, this belief about whether or not you'll have a successful business becomes so deep and heavy on one side that it feels almost impossible to think otherwise. To you, it becomes a fact of life. This is just the way that it is. Either you're destined for success or you're destined for failure. Simple enough. Whichever side has more rocks, that's the belief that we're going to have because we've experienced it time and time again. And with every rock that gets placed on there, that's another cause, which instigate and propels that feedback loop to go faster and faster. Okay, but I want to ask you a question. What do you use to see? What do you use to hear? What do you use to touch? What do you use to smell? What do you use to taste? These are all simple enough questions, and if you answered your eyes, ears, hands, nose, and tongue, then you're wrong. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not in the least bit crazy. We know now and can easily demonstrate just how little these particular organs have to do with actually experiencing something. Rather, we see, taste, hear, touch, and smell with our mind. It is our mind that actually does all of this work. To say what I mean, I'm going to say something and I don't want you to think about it. Ready? Do not think about it. No matter what you do, don't think about it. A purple elephant. What did you do? You thought about it, didn't you? You thought about a purple elephant. Now what happened? In your mind, you saw a purple elephant. That elephant existed for you in your subconscious mind. Your mind was given a goal, even one that I explicitly told you not to think about. And your mind took over without you telling it to do anything. And voila, you thought about a purple elephant. Now, if you remember, I wanted to talk to you about your success mechanism. The mechanism that is going to allow you to be incredibly successful and reach your goals and dreams with absolute precision. But you're not the only one with a success mechanism. So did you know that there are actually birds which, without any map, without any GPS or any weather channel, every single winter can understand that it's going to get cold, and without ever having done the journey before, will successfully fly their way to a warmer climate? And you've probably seen this before. Growing up in New England, we saw this all the time. The birds would all leave in the wintertime, then they would always come back in the summer. Or did you know that squirrels have a really similar ability? In order for a squirrel to survive through the winter, it has to gather nuts to keep us food for the season. However, what's really fascinating is that a squirrel doesn't have to be taught to do this. In fact, a squirrel born in the springtime with no experience whatsoever of the winter months will be found gathering nuts in the fall time to prepare for a season that it's never before lived through. It's a veritable fact that squirrels have a built-in success mechanism which allows them to survive through the winter, and this mechanism takes over on their behalf to keep them fed. Now, this ability to do things in order to be successful in life has been called instinct by some. It's an unconscious mechanism that takes over and allows for your conscious mind to do things that otherwise it wouldn't be able to do. And your mind works in the exact same way. Your mind was created with the intention of success, and deep within you is an unconscious mind that will naturally guide you to do things that you do not consciously now know how to do. This subconscious mind is called your success mechanism because it acts under the radar and helps you do incredible things without you even knowing it. Give it a task, such as walking or picking up a pencil, and your subconscious mind will do this with ease. You might be able to get very detailed with all the different muscles and tendons that are involved in something, as innocuous as picking up a pencil, but no amount of mental strain will help you to do it anymore. Rather, your subconscious mind has taken over and is doing the work for you that is in the goal that you set for it. The same can be seen in people who wake up every single morning without an alarm clock. Even sleep scientists who agree that the circadian rhythm, a person's waking and sleeping cycle, is largely determined by the rising and setting of the sun, even in places where there are extremely long days or extremely long nights. People have trained their brains to subconsciously wake up at the same time every single day without an alarm clock. They don't consciously think about it. The success mechanism within them simply has a goal, and then it figures out the rest. Even people locked in a cave for 30 days were still waking up at the same time. But it's not just for small tasks like these either. In the same way that you can train your subconscious mind to act for your benefit in the little things, it can also do the same for you in the larger things, which you can teach it to do as well. Anyone who's ever spent a long time learning another language can attest to the surprising experience of when someone asks you a question and you accidentally answer it in the new language that you've learned without thinking about it. Or how over time with practice you naturally feel less and less strain and the words just seem to pour out of you with ease. Or for those who have spent years doing stone setting or engraving, you notice how what once used to be so incredibly difficult is now something that passes by without strain or pain. You simply set a goal for yourself and let your mind take over. Your subconscious mind is a success mechanism which will strive toward any goal that it is given without strain or pain. All it needs is to be fed the correct positive inputs, and then it takes over to create a natural and positive outcome. Feed it the wrong inputs, however, and it works just as hard and just as passively and unbiased as when you fed it the positive inputs. What this means is that if you feed your mind with ingredients that will naturally, without effort, take over and figure out the particular steps to achieve those goals and make you successful without you needing to be in complete conscious control. But if you feed it the negative goals, if you feed it negative goals or inputs, then it will just as dispassionately work to fulfill and manifest those realities for you as well. Don't let this be more complicated than it needs to be. Your subconscious mind is working on your behalf to accomplish whatever it is that you feed it, be that good or bad. So remember when I asked you how you smell or touch or hear or feel or taste, and I told you that it's not actually your mouth or eyes or nose or ears or hands that do this, but your mind? Have you ever watched a scary movie before? You're in the comfort of your home and you're completely safe, but then you're watching and suddenly something pops out on the screen and you freak out and you feel the adrenaline rush and your entire body gets scared. What happened? So physiologically, it makes no sense whatsoever. You are completely safe. You even know that you're completely safe. Yet your body kicked into fight or flight mode. Your muscles tensed up, your pupils dilate, and you're ready to literally defend yourself for your life. But you're not in actual danger at all. What's going on? Imagine you stumble upon a bear in the woods. Immediately, your pulse will quicken, your adrenaline will pump, your heart rate will increase, your ability to focus will become extremely acute, and in order to survive, your body will literally shut down every process and organ that doesn't have to do with running away or survival. Your subconscious mind has been fed an input. You're in danger and need to run. And all of a sudden, it takes over, and without thinking, you're sprinting through the woods. But what if it were just an actor, a very good actor, dressed up as a bear, and you weren't in any real danger at all? Would your subconscious mind pick up on that and not respond with a fight or flight response? No. Whether or not it was a real bear doesn't matter. Even if you just thought you saw a bear, all that matters is what you believe it to be. If you believe it to be a real bear, and that's your input that you're feeding your mind, then you will not be able to stop your subconscious mind from working to get you to safety. And the same is true with hypnotism. In hypnotism, what matters most is not what is actually happening to a hypnotized subject, if you've ever seen hypnotism before, only what they believe about themselves. So a hypnotist tells a subject that he's standing at the edge of a very, very tall cliff, and his physical pulse will quicken, his knees will buckle, and he'll literally act as if he's standing on the edge of a tall cliff, even though he's on stage. What matters is not what is actually happening, but what the person believes is happening. And that belief becomes their reality that they experience. In fact, there have even been studies when it's been observed that a hypnotized subject is told that the hypnotist's fingers are hot pokers, even though they're just normal fingers, okay? And if the hypnotist touches the back of the participant, not only does the participant scream in pain as though he or she is being burned with a poker, but you can even see blistering and scarring around the site where he was poked on his skin. What matters to these people's reality is not what is actually happening, only what they believe is happening, only what they believe about themselves. Your mind cannot tell the difference whatsoever between something that is imagined and something that is actually happening. To your subconscious, these are the exact same thing. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Remember, the way we create our beliefs is by the things that we experience. Each experience, we stack a rock on either the side of, I'm going to be a successful jeweler or I'm not going to be a successful. And this creates a never-ending feedback loop that either helps us and pushes us towards our goals or becomes an inescapable trap that drags us down lower. If we constantly tell ourselves that we won't be successful, then we won't take the action. We won't take the action that we need to. And we won't being already successful, then no matter what gets in our way, we'll just see every little problem like a fluke, like something for me to overcome on my way to massive success. And this is how your mind was built. This is how it works. It's fed inputs, and then using those inputs, it reacts and creates your reality out of them. However, our minds cannot tell the difference between what is an actual input and what is merely an imagined input. If you allow yourself right now to breathe out and relax, and to think of yourself already where you want to be in 5 years, watch what happens. Give it a try. Relax and let yourself see yourself already where you want to be 5 years from now. Make things as vivid as possible. What does it smell like? What do you hear? Everything. Now, what you'll notice is that even though you haven't actually gone anywhere, you're already beginning to experience the positive feedback from your future life. If you feed your mind the correct input, it will kick into gear and work for you to effortlessly lay out the path to get there. This doesn't mean that there isn't hard work involved. It simply means that you don't have to stress about whether or not you'll get there or how. All you have to do is believe that you will get there, and you will begin to see results. Amazingly enough, there have even been studies where a group of basketball players were told to take an entire month and imagine themselves for 30 minutes a day successfully making free throws. They were put up against another group of basketball players who, for an entire month, were to spend 30 minutes a day actually practicing their free throws. Then they had a control group who did neither of those two things. What they found out was that the control group made no progress at all. The group who practiced for 30 minutes ended up improving their free throws by 24%. And the group who simply sat down and imagined themselves for 30 minutes a day ended up improving their free throws by 23%. It observed an increasing sales, in improving a golf swing, in getting more yeses from clients, in losing weight, in finding the right spouse, and countless other areas. By learning to think in the correct direction and feed your mind with the correct inputs, by allowing yourself to imagine and picture yourself already successful, your subconscious mind takes over and steers you in the right direction. Here's the truth. It doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe to be true, because with work, that will become true. And I want you to think about that a couple times. It doesn't matter what is true, only what you believe is true, because with work, that will become true. The thing is that we have these feedback loops everywhere. We've got our belief and our reality, and our belief becomes our reality. If our current reality isn't the best, then we're pretty much forever doomed unless we change the belief about it. The key is to really intervene with the belief, because we can't intervene with reality. Someone isn't going to come up to you and give you $1 million right now. You're just not going to win the lottery one day. So you can't start with the desired situation. So this is how people have gotten their success mechanisms jammed up. You need to change your belief, and instead of saying, "Who am I?" you need to ask the question, "Who am I becoming?" You need to intervene on your negative feedback loops. Once we intervene, we end up changing our reality. If I think, "Who am I?" and I'm an untrained, awkward person who has no chance of success, that's going to become my reality. Nothing could change my reality. My parents weren't going to give me any money. No one was just going to hand me any money. So I realized, well, okay, I have to change. I had to change my belief. I may as well change it and see if it works. So what I did was I intervened in my negative feedback loop and I changed my beliefs. I was like, all right, I'm going to become the best jewelry marketer there is. And even though I felt like I had no chance of success, I turned it from something that was so doomed for failure into something that was destined for success. And now I'm an excellent jewelry marketer. You intervene with the belief, and then you need to take massive action here in confidence with the new belief. Remember, it's not just about what you believe. It still takes work. And I'm not saying it doesn't matter what is true. Only believe what is true, because without work, it won't become anything. The work is still very important. It's not like you can just forget about material reality and act as though only what happens in your mind is what matters. That's nonsense. We cannot do that. We have to take action. We have to let our subconscious take over and tell us what to do. We have to do things. Thoughts on their own won't do anything. We need to have a thought, and then we need to do action, and we just need to keep on taking action and reflect quickly back and forth between the two. And as I'm taking action at the end of each day, I want to reflect. I want to be like, okay, today what happened? How could I have made it better? And then bam, straight back into tomorrow. Action, 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 action. Then take the time to reflect. Okay, how did things go? Then action, 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 action. You need to move between the two things, and you can't get jammed on any one side of just action or just not reflection, because people will just, they never reflect on anything and they never achieve anything. They start going in a direction but they shouldn't be going in, but they're not self-aware and have no idea where they're headed. But then there are people who just imagine things and they build these virtual fantasies in their minds, and it never really comes into existence. Once we have our beliefs, our thoughts, then we take massive action in confidence with our new beliefs. Then, because we've taken massive action, we experience our reality as confirmed becoming. As we start to believe different things, as we start to improve our beliefs, and then we start taking massive action, then we experience our new reality becoming, because massive action with massive belief creates results. But again, that's not enough on its own. We still need to experience feedback, because if I have a belief that I'm going to become an awesome business owner, and then I have an action, which is starting marketing my brand, starting to do outreach to potential clients. Well, what if my reality was, and my confirmed becoming was, that I wasn't making any sales? What if I'm not making any sales? What if I'm not actually selling anything to any people? Well, now I'm like, what? I changed my belief and I changed my action. That's why you need to listen to the feedback. And when the feedback comes to you, you need to be like, okay, what can I change? What am I doing wrong? And what am I doing right? Then when you get that feedback, you need to listen to it. You need to think, okay, maybe I should change this, or maybe I should change that. Maybe I need to take more action here. You adjust it, and then you do it again. Then you listen to the feedback, do it again. Listen to the feedback, do it again. Listen to the feedback, do it again. This is how the feedback loop works. And that's how we start to see these exponential curves, and that's how you start to get compound interest. However, this can get you in the wrong way too. Once you start getting down in your beliefs, then you start taking less action. Once you start having bad beliefs and less action, you start seeing less things in reality. Then once you start seeing less things in reality, you start getting feedback, then you decrease your beliefs again, decrease your actions, decrease your reality, decrease your feedback, and it just keeps spiraling down and out of control, going downwards. You have to be so careful that you've got these things going up instead of down. You have to be going for gains, not losses. You have to understand how each different phase of this feedback cycle is critically important. You cannot ignore any one part. It doesn't matter what's true, only what you believe to be true, because with work, that will become true. That's the real secret to everything. You need to change your belief, take massive action, confirm your reality, and experience the feedback, iterate, and adjust. What you end up experiencing is what I call worrying in reverse. So if you worry about something, what ends up happening? You get tense, you feel like junk, you're always stressed. But what happens if you're excited about something that's going to happen? You feel alive, you feel like the best version of yourself, right? What is worry really? Worry is just imagining that your future is going to be painful. But the sad part about it is that you don't have to wait until the future to start experiencing that pain. As soon as you start worrying, you feel all that pain. And that pain makes you more nervous. And then it's harder to take action. And you just feel like quitting. But that pain and suffering isn't real. It's not coming from anything that's actually happening to you. It's all something that you've made up in your mind. And the pain that you're experiencing is coming from something that hasn't even happened yet. You end up borrowing pain from the potential future to feed your present. And what a terrible way that is to live life. Always experiencing pain and suffering that's not even there. That's worry. So what if we just turn that around and worry in reverse? What if instead of picturing a future that's painful and worrisome, we picture an also very, very possible real reality of a future that's awesome and amazing? What if instead of looking forward and seeing gloomy, dark, cloudy skies, we saw bright, sunny, beautiful skies where we do achieve our goals and we do achieve our dreams and things the way we want them to be? And we are the person that we want to be. What ends up happening is that we begin to experience some of that great life now. We begin to borrow life and vitality from the future and experience it in the present. It feeds us now, and we look forward to the future. This isn't just feel good, positive thinking stuff. This is thinking realistically. And most people who call themselves realists are just borrowing fake pain from a fake future they're constantly feeding on, and it makes them sick. Instead, be honest with yourself. And if you're constantly worrying about the future, stop. Recognize what's happening and that you're experiencing something that you don't need to in order to achieve your goals. The first thing you need to change is your beliefs about where you're going. We have to rewire our brains to accept that we can actually change and we can actually become the hero that we look up to. Start to create feedback loops in your mind based on experiences from the future. Each time you think about something you've done right or successfully, and you think about it, you are stacking more and more and more rocks onto the success side of the scale. At some point, that scale is going to be so big that it won't even be a question for you anymore whether or not you'll be successful. It'll just be a fact of life. Something that can't be disputed because you've experienced success so many times. And your subconscious can't tell the difference between what you've experienced in your mind and what you've experienced in real life. With your mind thinking that way, your subconscious takes over and begins to effortlessly guide you to your goals and dreams. It makes you an invincible, unstoppable force that can go through any barrier, because even if something big and scary comes up, you know that it's just another challenge to get past. This is how my multimillionaire friends think. This is how I think. This is how you make massive changes in your life, and it all starts with belief.